Well, hello, everyone. We appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We will start our City of Travelers Rest Council Committee meeting for March the 6th. Thank you for our guests for coming, Sharon and Harvey. We appreciate you guys being here and all of our staff as well. We will, let's see, we don't have any citizen participation tonight, so we're just going to jump into our Public Works Committee, and we will start with Chair Chris.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So on this committee, it's myself, council members Lisa Lane and Sherry Mara. First, is there a motion to approve the February 6th Public Works minute?
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions about that? Well, we'll move into our Public Works report. Seems like you've been very busy, a lot of things going on. Anything that you'd like to highlight, Director Tate?
No, I don't think so. The report's before you. The women's restroom at Trailblazer Park has been painted, and we're working on the men's. And the trail counter is in. It's up and running. We'll be getting that on the internet web base. Will be going hopefully live tomorrow.
That is so exciting, and we have an invitation on Sunday at 4 p.m. to go look at that and celebrate. All right.
I'd like to take a moment to introduce the Public Works intern.
Oh, great.
Abraham Evans.
Hi, Abraham.
Started with us today. He's from Travelers Rest High School, lives over in North Cliff, so we look forward to him working with us and getting some training and training us as well.
Wonderful.
Nice to meet you. Welcome.
How long are we going to have you? Is it like period
He's
time?
here until May with an option to stay longer if it works out.
That's so cool.
Welcome.
Thanks. So the next thing that we have on the, I'm sorry. The people on committee, do y'all have any questions about or comments about the Public Works report before we move on?
Just the trail counter, what do all the numbers mean?
There's one sensor counts the pedestrians, and
Okay.
then one sensor counts the bicyclist. That data will be collected and used for maybe some grant opportunities down the road for us. That is the Bike Walk Greenville. They graciously raised the money and brought it in, and we just provided the labor to get that installed. So
That's very
And
nice.
other data that it collects is time, the weather. So those are other two important data points, so we can see, in the season and, the month. So we can see kind of, usage of the trail at certain times of day, certain types of weather, and be able to kind of recognize patterns a little bit more effectively on when we anticipate it to be busier than others.
You put a link out when it's all connected for citizens to be able to look at the information too, or is it just for internal use?
Well, so we have access to a software system that we can assimilate the data into a report form, if you will. So we'll probably just post reports on a regular basis from the software and kind of assimilate that in a user-friendly way that everybody can kind of see it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone from council have any questions about reports or comments about the report before we move to the sewer code amendment?
Nice to see Metro's doing the locates. What are you doing with all of your free time?
yeah, we have yes, sure. We're able to get some maintenance items addressed now that we don't have that to worry about.
Mostly being facetious, but I'm happy for you.
Okay, we'll move on to the sewer code amendment ordinance. So as a review request to amend City Code Chapter 4.04 sewage system, this ordinance has been amended to remove obsolete and unnecessary provisions. The only changes proposed to the septic tank pumping provisions is to change the minimal frequency from 18 months to 36 months. So and it says need a motion to send the ordinance onto full council and need a second. So any other comments about this ordinance?
I would just like to briefly summarize again that this ordinance is basically a result of us turning our sewer operations and system over to Metro. Some of these requirements in our code were no longer necessary since we're no longer responsible for operating the system. And many of them were actually covered under Metro or REWA's authorities now. We looked into the issue of the pumping of the septic tanks, and the industry recommended standard is 36 months on that. And so we basically just decided to take this opportunity to make that adjustment, since that's what is recommended. The most frequent time you would need to pump septic tanks is every 3 years as opposed to every 18 months.
So right now, when we pump septic tanks, is it always usually at least 3 years between?
Currently, right now, we have people, some residents that are eligible call us every 18 months, and some don't ever call us. So it's all over the map as far as how many and how frequently, but they have by code the ability and the right to expect a pump every 18 months, the way it's written right now.
The way that it is it like a full tank at 18 months, or is it kind of still space left in the tank?
Bill
No, that's,
can speak probably
yeah,
better.
that would, that's a complete tank pump there. And just to go back, looking back over the last 23, 24 months, we've only had maybe 5 or 6 of those that's been in the 18-month window. If, where they call, then 18 months, and one day they call again. We only have about 5 out of 125 or so that has done that in the last 23, 24 months.
Well, they need a new drain field. They're taking advantage of it.
Yeah, that is correct.
My question is, you have May 8th, 1979 as the date for emptying the septic tanks, and I know more recently you do it for all septic tank users. Are you going back to that date, or do we need to take that date off of there?
We did not change the date as it was written and adopted. We can, maybe do a better job of checking to make sure that they qualify for that. But that's something that,
And I
We
think
didn't
there may
recommend
be
change.
some question on where some of the sewer availability was. This is before I got here, but where some of the sewer availability is. And over in Grayson is an example of that. There was not able to, and it's not I guess, developer, when the developer went in there to do that, he could not gain the access for the sewer, but he was allowed to put the subdivision in. So
That was a
those are built after what the code states.
so it sounds like that was a special situation where the city at that point in time gave some assurances to that developer that that would be handled by the city, but that's not written into the code, but it was just for that particular development. We don't have access to an agreement that says that in writing, but apparently it was maybe verbal, that we would do that one subdivision. We looked to
Well,
see if we could find anything. but we-
Hold on. I know
I mean?
they got you got the same deal,
Well,
right?
here, I'm thinking that I need to submit an invoice for taking care of my own septic tank because it was installed after 1979, so I paid for it myself.
And we got some folks in the audience that have the same situation.
Mhm.
I have the same situation on Williams Road because there's no sewer available on Williams Road. Now, if sewer were available, I would hook up to it tomorrow. But it has been, ever since we built that house in 2000, we have had the ability to have the septic tank pump because of the fact that there's no sewer available. We don't have a choice. Am I not correct on that? The old time folks, I mean, that's the
Being
way
pumped
we've
by
done
the
it.
city? You get the city to pump yours?
Yes. And we've been there 20 plus 23 years, 24 years, 25 years, somewhere along in there.
Yours installed
And
before
Councilman McCall,
1979?
the subdivision there at Hawk Crest,
Yeah.
that's the same
Yeah,
scenario there.
exactly.
There's no way to get sewer in there.
And I saw y'all had the pump over there, and that's 10-year-old subdivision?
Hey, I'm gonna say 10 to maybe
Yeah.
12. I'm not
Yeah.
real familiar on the date.
But anyway, that's been the way that neighborhood has been because there is, you got sewer? The Toller Road you have sewer. Toller Road has sewer, do they not?
Yes.
But, okay, and Benji's right there on Toller Road, okay, but if you go all the way down, and there's a force main that runs right down the street, a 36-inch force main that runs right down the street, that no taps are available.
That's right.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, if you were, I would just love for the powers that be to take that into consideration. That's the way it's always been, because there hasn't been anything available. And we have paid just like everybody else. we paid the fee, the monthly fee, just like we had sewer. And so, I mean, that's all I'm saying, so.
Was your house built before
No,
1979?
it's like in 2000.
It seems,
But because of that fact, there's none available, so, you know,
it seems like we just need some clarification to, I mean, it almost really, it seems to me, to heck with the dates.
yeah,
That
exactly,
There's so much confusion, and I'm saying this because I've been on council for years.
exactly.
And we've had this type of discussion multiple times,
Yeah.
that there is a lot of confusion over these dates. So I'm just wondering, to heck with the dates, let's do it. But I got an idea, I got a proposal
Yeah.
here, and that's why. I've done
But
some looking
let
at
me,
this.
I'm gonna add to that, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm gonna call on Coach. Remember, it used to be, they would actually even replace the drain field one time. That was in part of the agreement. If you were on sewer, then they would, at one time, they would actually replace the drain field. Now, we did away with that. I was on council when we did away with that. But now, the other part, I'm just saying, that's the way it's been over there in in our neighborhood, because there's no sewer available.
What you
And
thinking,
there's no
Grant?
sewer available on your road.
This is what I'm,
Yeah.
my thoughts are this, I'm thinking both on the side that you guys are on the user side, but also on the financial side of this. I did put some numbers together, y'all, and we've sold the sewer system. We've got some money that's sitting in there. So what if we put some money into a fund, set it up, and said we will pump everyone, any septic in town that is currently there, not anything from here on out, but that is currently there, we give them an offer to do it for, if we're gonna change this to 36 months, make this on a 3-year time plan, say, okay, we'll do it up to 9 years from now. But after 9 years, you're on your own. But up to that, we'll do it up to 3 times. And here's what I did some looking, y'all. Philip told me that right now we're at $425 to pump one. The full thing is $425. But he also said in the last 5 years, it's gone up $200. So I just did some playing and said this, okay, let's figure it goes up $200 more, figuring $625. If you do that times 120 homes, which is approximately what we have, correct? That is $75,000. And if we did, okay, so in a 3-year period, if you pumped everybody's, you're gonna spend $75,000 in that 3-year period. If you do it again the next 3 years and did exactly the same thing, if you did that over 9 years, you're looking at $225,000. Well, we've got money in that, and it's gotta be used in the sewer fund, in our sewer sales, it's gotta be used for specific stuff. Let's take $225,000 in there, stick it over in the other, adopt this the way it is at 36 months, and tell the homeowners that, look, those that own the property will do this, but it expires in 9 years. That's the end of it.
Why 9 years?
How long, you tell me, how long should it run?
Okay.
Because here's what I want you to see also.
Where did I see the numbers, what the numbers, of what money we got left?
In the sewer fund?
Yeah.
1.7.
No, but where, I mean, I'm trying to find that.
It's back, it was on,
87.
Well, and everyone on septic will save $10 a month because they won't be paying the sewer fee.
they're saving everything because
Right.
they're not having to pay any fees whatsoever.
Right, so
No,
they're
you're
not
not paying
paying-
anything to
right.
anybody else.
That's
There's
still
sunset.
restricted money, right?
That's very restricted,
Yeah.
yes, sir. That would get us, and I'm just saying 9 years, if you don't think it ought to be 9, then tell me why it ought to be
Okay,
more.
well, if you got 1.7, why don't you take the 1 million and put it in a fund and use the interest off of it to continue that
In
process?
perpetuum, I don't think we need to. I don't think that's fair on the rest of the homeowners. You're getting free
We've
sewer
been
service
paying
that
for
way.
how long for y'all's sewer and not getting,
But
so
you-
like,
well-
why wouldn't we still?
I
I don't
That's the
think
whole
that
thing.
fee covers
We're
it,
gonna
though, does it?
continue to pay, I mean, not
paying
now,
the fee. You won't
not
be
without the
paying
fee, but
But we have
We
been
have
paying
been.
the fee for up
You've
until
had your
now.
septic pumped out,
Right.
correct?
I've never
Well,
had
you-
mine
'cause
paid
you
for to
obeyed
be
the
pumped.
rules.
Yes, yes.
But many others have those.
Yeah, but $10 a month isn't covering what people are paying to get their,
And-
Well, that's
Right.
$120. When we first set it up, 120, it wasn't that far off. It was only like $250. And if you did it, apportionately, then you had paid into it enough to where you had paid enough to have your septic tank pump.
That's what our
That
thought
was, that was what it all started.
back then.
Yeah. That make sense? But, I mean, I don't want to be difficult about it, but, I mean, what are you gonna do about the folks that don't have the opportunity, to go on sewer? I mean, it's punishing, not just Williams Road, but Little
Little
Texas
Texas.
Road, it's punishing Ina Street.
From here on out, it's not gonna matter because they're not paying any fees to anybody.
It would be a developer problem.
Exactly, and because you're not paying any fees to Metro. Only
So-
the sewer people are paying fees to Metro, so you don't have any sewer fee whatsoever.
But that's not the point. It's the availability. If you wanna get somebody to go over through there and run sewer, would you hook up, Coach?
Yes, if someone ran it close.
Would you hook up, Kelly? I would hook up. I mean, we would hook up in a heartbeat. But we don't have that
Don't
opportunity.
make me get you in trouble.
But, right,
So I will say on that note, just on the other side, my daughter bought a house, but we knew beforehand, she knew beforehand that she wasn't on sewer, it was a septic tank. So that's part of the purchase point of that house in that area. So I think it almost needs to be like, I like Grant's idea that you're helping out for
Oh,
an
that's a
extended period of
great
time.
idea.
But at the same time, when you build or when you purchase a house, that's part of the agreement that you know that you have it or don't have it.
But these
That
people
is
have been
now.
promised septic, though. That's the point. Like Grayson, Wayne's been getting his pumped out. So he's, now all of a sudden it's changing. So didn't make the agreement that he would. And then
But-
you have the people on Grayson that their developer made the agreement that their septic tanks would be pumped. And now all of a sudden they're told it's not. So I do think we need to change that date to now. Anything built after today, it's a developer problem. But the issue is, how long do you keep doing it for the people that are no longer paying the fee either? So,
well, it's interesting because it sounds like it hasn't been applied equally because
It hasn't,
she's been
no.
paying to get it empty, and other people have been getting it empty. So we have to come up with some kind of standard and then move forward with that standard, whatever that is. But from my understanding, moving forward, people on septic will not have the same fee, correct? So I guess if you add up that fee, is it enough that it would cover emptying the septic tank, the fee that you're not covering?
it'll be $360 in 3 years. It's $10 a month now, so they'll have $360 extra every 3 years in their pocket.
Okay.
And it costs $425 to empty it
For
now.
us, and I don't know, Kelly probably knows more, how much?
I honestly don't I should, because it was
I mean,
just
that
a few
might be a
months ago,
deal.
but I don't remember. off
That's-
the
That might be a
what we
deal
pay.
to the
That's what we
city,
pay.
correct, so that may not be something the homeowner pays either.
Well, maybe it's the difference between the 360 and then the amount.
Well, I think the ones that, like, were grandfathered in, like Harvey and them, that's been on it forever, I think we should continue paying for that. But the new ones, I always had a problem with the new developments that we're paying for, and they were not even under that time frame. But yet we're paying for them. They're benefiting. But the ones that have been in the city and we've been doing forever, I think it should continue until they sell the house. If a new owner comes in, then
That's a good
maybe think about it then to change it.
Well, I
Just
can
in,
tell you a little bit about Grayson Point. Grayson Point originally, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but they wanted us to go in and put a pump station in there. They're not. And, we were in that business for a while. We had, Tubbs Extension, out there, Elizabeth Drive, one more, was it not one more? Anyway, and plus they wanted that one at Grayson Point. And Roy and we just flat said, no, we're not doing that. We're not gonna get into another pump station that we have to, to keep up. And, yeah. That's right. And so it was, I mean, because, you know, physics will tell you that stuff it don't go uphill. You know, so if you're gonna get it, move it point A to point B, it's gotta be pumped somewhere. And so that's a little bit about Grayson Point, why that they have septic tanks. Because they originally wanted to have, a pump station.
But they still should have had the septic tanks and been paying because it doesn't
Yeah.
fit the
Right, but
ordinance.
I'm just giving you that background. I mean, I'm not being argumentative, I'm just trying to give you that background.
I like Rick's idea, if you have it for starting now, a certain date, or December 31st, 2022, and then if the house is sold, that doesn't transfer to the new owner.
Can we keep track of that?
See,
Sure.
that's the issue why we haven't been able to implement the ordinance the way it was originally adopted. You know, when we adopt and put
Yeah.
dates on things,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they get grandfathered, it becomes very difficult for staff to track that. And I think
Yeah.
at some point, somebody just made a decision that we're just gonna do it for everybody. Or, I'm not sure how it happened, but you have turnover in staff, you have a lot of other difficulties in being able to do that type of research in order to, so any recommendation that I would give council would be to just adopt whatever you would like to adopt, but don't set another date to where these people qualify and these people don't, because it becomes difficult for, I think, the staff
When we
to.
talked about the sewer conversation, you guys were gonna make a recommendation to us for sunsetting this, right?
Yes, that would be, if council will want to hear, you know, my thoughts on it, I do think that we should look at a date where we sunset the whole program, because what we're talking about is expanding a program and we're getting rid of our revenue. So if anything, you know, it's one thing to kind of keep things the same. If you're expanding it the way that the original council intended it to be, then you're really, and you're not increasing your revenue, then you're going divergent paths there. I would recommend we look at a sunset date and we give adequate notice to everybody, whatever that time period is. And we just notify them that they will be eligible for X number more pumps. And at some point in the future, you know, the city is out of the sewer business at this point in time, and we don't have a revenue stream. So it could be 5 years, it could be 9 years, it could be any time period that council decides.
Maybe something else to think about is for our older residents who maybe were promised that we could make a special exception for them or some type. I don't necessarily like being like, oh, you've lived here forever and now you gotta take care of yourself for some people. So maybe there can just be something, a way to kind of look at that particular population, kind of like what we did with the sewer fee too. So maybe there's a, what is it, homestead, is that the right word? Why am I blanking on it? But that could be something to kind of separate the two as well and give us some type of,
I would.
that we're making sure we're taking care of a certain group
I
of the
think that we
residents.
would look at maybe doing an inspection and an analysis of their current system. And if there was an issue before we just turned it over to the ref, a lot of these issues that we're dealing with now are drain field issues. They're getting pumped so frequently that there's no incentive for them to fix the bigger underlying cause of their issue.
Exactly.
And so if we were to turn it over to, say, an individual, I think we could establish like an inspection to determine, you know, is the system functioning the way that it is?
Smart.
We get it up to speed, fix the drain field, fix the tank, and then let them know that, okay, we've covered this cost to get it right. And from this point forward, you know, it becomes, you know, the homeowner's responsibility after that. But I think that we could do a program like that with the money that we have in the fund. We could figure out a way to possibly look at individuals, this kind of back to that same challenge of being able to identify people that qualify. We would just have to do a better job of kind of consistently managing that program and making sure that we have an application that asks the right questions and then be able to let them know whether they qualify or not. But it can be done. It just, up until this point in our history, you have to remember where we've been and where we are today. We have more capability today than where we had in the past. And I think in the past, it has been one of those things that it just was not maybe a high priority for us to follow the exact letter of the law, as you will.
We've really only been keeping records for about 26 months, is my understanding, Philip. Would that be correct? So before that, they're just not any
They got
records
the phone and
available.
call somebody.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Be a card index box. House and they tell you when
I bet we could,
benefits the drain bill.
I
Is that
bet we
when we
could
have
call
fax
Ma.
machines, Chief?
What happened to that card catalog?
If your system's working properly, you should never have to have it punched.
Right.
It's not designed to have to be pumped. But drain fields don't drain like
That's
they're
right.
supposed to, and that's why it does that.
Issue.
So there's no.
When I think too, like, you have like single moms, low-income households, they're not necessarily gonna be in the sunset clause. So I think we need to consider them as well, because they're not going to be able to afford it. And then even with the savings every month. So that's my concern.
Well, Chair Chris, why don't, this would just be a recommendation for me, why don't we send it back to our staff? You guys make a recommendation for us. We could sit here all night and come up with
Sure. Oh,
potential
absolutely.
sunset
Well,
programs.
right.
Tell us what you guys think would be a good way to also address some of the concerns we have about who that affects. We did make promises to some of our residents, but we also want to be smart. And I'm with Grant, I don't want to set council up for 10 years of having this exact same conversation over and over again where we can't remember what we promised or is the list good or blah, blah, blah. But that would be my recommendations for you guys. Just tell us what would be a good plan for that.
Happy to.
And it sounds like it was dealing with age, older residents, it's also social economic status. And so maybe those two things to think about.
So do we just go ahead and move this on? Because, I mean, you all are pumping anyway, and that doesn't change anything, and then we can go back to this ordinance later? Is that something?
Well, we could have something prepared for council at first reading. If the committee wanted to move it forward, we could introduce amendments at first reading if council would like to consider any changes or amendments when it gets to first reading, if that's what the committee would like to do.
I make a motion to move it on to council.
I do have a couple other questions, though. All that was a big thing, but mine's a small one. On page 3, it says, "The city or sewer provider shall keep the records." Is that like, are we going to do it, or is Metro, is that a sure thing?
I think that's more legalese, just to kind of cover your bases.
And/or? Okay. And the other thing was on the last page, mandatory sewer connection not required if cost effective. There's also a word called excessive. So what terminology or what amount would be, like if someone says, well, that is cost versus excessive? Like, is there amount attached to that?
We've relied on an engineer's assessment, but in the past, as that determining factor whether or not something is excessive. They would do an analysis to
At that time.
determine at that time when somebody made that request.
Which makes sense, because
And then-
5 years from now, it's going to be more than it is now. Okay.
Exactly. And then that's just based on a professional engineer's recommendation. They deal with that all the time, and, we have to kind of just use a little judgment as the way it's currently written.
Right, okay.
And just a little more information on this. In the last 26 months, we've pumped out 45 tanks. So that's just to put that out there as well. It's
It
not like
cost
you're pumping
us-
out 100 every year.
So we have a total of about 125 is the total?
Yes, but between 125 and 150.
Okay.
So
It cost us $450 to pump it, not flush it. Are there any areas in the city where new development could occur where they could not access sewer?
Yes.
Where?
Could not point out exact areas, but there are areas where you're going to have gaps where they can't access the sewer. So those are areas, they may be small infill areas, but there are certain properties that would not be able to access the sewer. So we don't know how many total units could be added based on that, but there are currently holes in the system where somebody would have to install a septic system in order to be able to develop the property.
And I'm assuming that if anything changes with the infrastructure, that residents are alerted that, hey, you could connect to sewage now if you wanted to? Or is that on the resident to keep an eye out on that?
Yeah, when we went through the current analysis, Metro looked at that question, and anyone that they feel can connect to the system, they'll get a notification that they can connect. We didn't have anybody that could currently, we determined we couldn't remove anyone off septic the way the system was today that would not be cost prohibitive in order to have to extend, or it was just engineering, not feasible engineering-wise to connect to the system the way it is today. So all the ones that we currently have today, we don't anticipate them being able to connect at any point in the near future to the current system.
And anything new that, if the septic tank is considered, has to be at least R15, is that not correct? You can't do R10 and have a septic tank.
You have to qualify for DHEC's minimum lot size, which is 25,000 square feet, and that is the minimum for public water and a septic tank, typically. Now, they have the right to change that, but typically that's your minimum in order to qualify and be able to
R15.
perk. So that'd be 25,000 square feet. So in our case, yes, R15, but just because you're R15, you could do a 15,000 square foot lot, but you would not be able to get septic. So they would have to build a larger lot to qualify for the septic in order to establish the perk, the perk test and qualify for DHEC's requirements.
So, but that is a minimum, and the way it is now, it's, 15,000 square feet lot? And that's half acre?
Well, 43,560 is an acre, but like I said, typically DHEC will not give a septic tank permit for anybody under 25,000. That's kind of your threshold there for being able to have adequate space. Now, they can make exceptions to that, but DHEC makes that decision.
If we move it on, so I did motion for it, but you will still empty all the septic tanks you have been, and not just before 1979, correct? Or do we need to still change this date? Sorry.
So, since we have established by practice that we are doing what we're doing today, we don't plan to make any changes
Okay,
to how we're handling it today, unless there are some changes made to the code between now and when we adopt this. So our policy is to continue to just do things the way we have.
Even though that date is on there, correct? Okay.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
We veered off this course, and I think we're going to stay on the course that we are currently on until we adopt a new ordinance that we can consistently enforce.
I definitely think it needs to be, something needs to be, laid out there and everybody knows what they're looking at, I mean, I think this is like he said, she said, we've got, like I said, the way it was in my neighborhood, the way it is in different neighborhoods. I mean, you gotta have some kind of, I don't like the word sunset clause, I don't like that, but I do think there needs to be some verbiage some way or another to define where we're going with this. I definitely
Got a
think so.
motion? Do you have a second?
Second.
All right. So we're moving it on, but we would like to see some of those recommendations.
Yes, we'll provide recommendations at first reading for that topic.
Thank you so much. So the next thing we have is residential solid waste and recycling. We have two proposals before us. So Administrator Vinson, can you please give us an overview?
Yes, so we had two responses, two proposals summarized here in the memo. The first proposal is for recycling services only by Evergreen Recycling. And that proposal would increase our current rate to $22.45 per customer. Currently, we're at $12.50 per customer. I would like to state that we are currently still negotiating the best price with Evergreen, and we feel that we can get that number down significantly. So we're hopeful, and I can have some additional information for council at a later date. But that first proposal is still, the proposal was based on if they provide the carts. And so what we're working on is with Greater Greenville, if we can get a good deal on the carts, then this number will go down significantly, because a lot of this cost is in the purchase of carts for the city. So with that hope, we will be bringing back a new number for council to consider on proposal number 1. Proposal number 2 was for all services, and that's kind of the industry going rate for cities. That comes out to be for one time per week garbage collection, every other week on recycling, and one time per week on yard and tree trimmings. Total cost of $23.02 per month per customer on that proposal. So we would love to stay with Greater Greenville, find a way to stay with Greater Greenville. I believe that we've had good service with Greater Greenville. If we can figure out a way to get the recycling costs down to a manageable number, it looks like proposal number 1 may be the best opportunity for us to look into going with.
The one thing I wanted clarification on, before you said we were paying $12.50, was that just for recycling or trash and recycling?
So $12.50 per month is for everything except for disposal. That's what Greater Greenville charges to pick it up. They don't have.
Recycling and trash, or just
Yes,
recycling?
and yard debris, all 3 services.
$12.50.
All 3, yes.
Tipping
Now,
fees are extra, correct?
tipping fees are extra. You pay a separate tipping fee for your disposal, which adds about $1 to that number, $1 per month per customer for recycling. And then on your solid waste for the landfill, that runs about, trying to remember, we do 65 tons a month.
The trash is probably around 50 cents, between 40 and 50 cents
Per
extra
customer.
per customer.
Yeah, so it's a little less on the trash side. So those are in addition to the $12.50 charge. So we're looking at actual costs when you add the dollar and add the additional, about $14 per customer currently today is our fee.
So 14 versus like 35 if we just added Evergreen Recycling, if you added it all together.
Actually, no, that was, the $18 is per customer. So they would not charge us for everyone unless you recycled. So in other words,
Oh.
they would charge us, so if right now we have 940 recyclers in the city, everybody would be eligible and could recycle at any point in time, but the fee that they would give us would be based on just those folks that would recycle. So that's $18 per recycling customer. One of the things that we need to look at is when you have your disposal costs factored in, you end up, those numbers change over time. So in other words, the cost of recycling is going to go up and down to dispose of. Theoretically, it lowers our overall cost to take things to the landfill, the more recyclers we have. Now that recycling is more expensive, it's not that much of an incentive from a financial standpoint, but as recycling drops back down again, if it does, it's typically a lot cheaper than the landfill is historically. So those numbers on the disposal side, we can't put an exact number to those things because those numbers fluctuate on an annual basis.
Are they charging us less for not offering recycling? Our current company?
So our current company does not charge us to pick up the recycling because they already have trucks that have to go out on that route on those days. So in other words, it's not an added cost to them because they
Okay.
have bigger routes that are already serving the Furman area and they're sending those trucks out anyway. So I asked him about a reduction since we are currently not going to be getting recycling from Greater Greenville. He said he would consider maybe a minor reduction, but actually he hasn't been charging us the cost of picking that up since he already has trucks in the area and they have to be already out in the area anyway. I think what we can negotiate is at least a non-fee increase. Every year they go up, so I think if we can negotiate to where the fee, the $12.50 stays the same, we'll be doing pretty good. He may consider a slight decrease since the recycling service is going away, but, you know, he did tell me that they have not really been charging us for that pickup. They've only charged us for the disposal.
So regardless, it's gonna go up in cost then. Regardless, if we keep recycling, it's gonna go up in cost.
So regardless if we want to stay doing recycling, if we stay with Greater Greenville with no recycling, we're looking at standing pat at $12.50, best case scenario. Possibly getting it down to $12 per customer as a best case scenario. Like I said, I think that if he would just freeze the increases and we stay at $12.50, that's probably where we're going to land. If we go with recycling services only, it's going to be a lot less than changing service providers to do all three. So we're trying to investigate further on proposal one. If we can get that number down to a manageable level, then that's something that we could possibly pursue.
All right, now, tell me if I'm understanding this correctly. There is potentially a way to, for lack of better terms, to opt out of recycling, and you won't be charged for that? Is it be charged only for the people that use it?
If we do a certain program, it'll be eligible for everybody, whether they use it or not.
Okay.
So there's no additional fee and there's no discount. It's
Okay.
still, the city provides that service, and whether or not you use it or not has nothing to do with that. Now, the company that charges us, they're only gonna bill us for the people that actually do recycle.
Okay.
So, but, you
And
know, like
so,
now we have
but
1,800
everybody-
customers.
But if that were the case, then still, but everybody would still have to pay for it, regardless if you used it or not.
Correct. From a tax standpoint, yes.
I got you, all right. Now, well, what about, I understand that, that's something to look at. Now, if we stayed with Greater Greenville, would they still include the waste removal, like limbs, brush?
Yes.
That wouldn't be included like as a recycling thing?
No, that's they would provide two services to the city, the yard waste and the trash
All right.
service.
All right, now, I have if this was considered, okay, like, we recycle, we always have, and I'll continue to recycle, but, you know, I'm not opposed to running over to Food Line, or I'm not opposed to running over to Blackberry Valley or up to Echo Valley, all right? So, with that being said, what if we were to request from Greenville County additional recycling bins or trailers or what, like we've got up there at Food Line?
Well, so, I mean, that's not a curbside service, obviously. So what we've been focused on is trying to maintain curbside service. That would be a different conversation altogether. If council wants to discontinue curbside services, then we can look at other alternatives. But right now, we've really just looked into continuing the curbside service as a service the city provides.
Wayne, I
guess
hate to
what I'm
interrupt you.
asking
Wayne,
is,
I hate to interrupt you, but we probably need to let the committee members go first, just for process. So Lisa and Sherry, you guys need to talk about it, and then you can bring it about outside of council.
Well, my thing, Greater Greenville already said you can keep your carts, so can we not use the Greater Greenville carts to save money?
Exactly. So that's where we're looking at. I think we can get this $18 per customer cost down to around the $10 range if we negotiate a good deal with Greater Greenville on keeping their carts, because the carts, like I said, is a huge part of that $18. So once we finalize a cart deal with, it'll be really, that cost can come off the table, and then we can get a lower number on the recycling. And then everybody that would, at that point in time, the city would own the recycling carts. Greater Greenville would turn those over to the city. There would be no disruption on the customer side because their carts they would already have their carts, and there'd be no picking up and delivering new carts and all of that.
Well, on the tag, it says that you can keep your cart. So on the tag, that Greater Greenville, they're not picking up the carts. So unless you want them
Yeah,
picked
they've
up.
already
So
communicated with us.
they've
we
already
can keep that.
communicated that. we
It's
can keep
just the
carts. It's
value
just-
that cart has to the proposer is what we're
Right,
negotiating.
exactly.
And
So
how would that
that's-
work out with new people coming in wanting the
Then
recycling?
you'd have to get parts, yeah.
So we're negotiating with Greater Greenville to keep the
To continue
carts.
that.
And then we are gonna go back to the, proposal number one and find out what is that worth to them. If they had to buy those carts, then they would be paying, a pretty hefty fee for those carts from Greater Greenville. And that is an option. Greater Greenville would consider the option of selling those carts to this provider as opposed to giving us another deal for those carts. So that is something that we need to find out, what is that worth? And if that's worth what we think it's worth, then we can get this number down to around $10 per customer per month.
So overall, if we continue to do recycling, the cost is going to go up, is what we're saying.
If we want to continue all the services that we
Curbside.
currently have today, the cost is going to go up, yes.
Depending on what special price we get.
Yes, so if we factor in $10, that would be across the board, a $5.71 increase if you spread it across all customers in the city. So it would end up being about almost $18 total from $12.50 today. The total cost would be $18 per customer to the city.
And with the numbers right now that you're saying, half of the people who currently now have that service use the recycling.
We have about 940 recyclers.
That's correct.
And about 1,810 customers total.
A little more than half.
And Meridian won't just do recycling?
No.
Sounds like it's not profitable. That's the big issue with them. Mhm.
So then that just means the price goes up for everybody and they pay the company directly, or would it be a bill from the city?
No, they would bill the city for the service, and then people could opt in or out of it if they want. If they want to recycle, they can. This is a service that the city would provide across the board. But again, like it is today, I mean, we currently are paying theoretically for recycling. Now, the fact that they're only charging us, 25 cents to be up here because they're already up here, that's a sweet deal. This is a trip that somebody has to make specifically to the city on a biweekly basis. And so we've had a pretty good deal as it relates to recycling, just because, like I said, our current provider was already sending recycling trucks out on a route that we were part of. And
Okay.
so that's kind of where but the service, if we want to continue it, the cost will go up for sure.
Does Evergreen offer more recycling options like glass, pickup, anything like that?
That's a great question. I think that glass is off the table, but I could check. It's in their proposal, so I'd have to go back and take a look and make sure. They could have a special arrangement with the glass. I know at one point they did glass, so that's a great question. I'll go back and confirm whether or not they do glass as well. That would be an additional service that we currently don't have.
Do we know any other municipalities that use Meridian Waste, and do we know anybody that uses them in Reputation in case?
A lot of people have moved to Meridian. I know City of Greer uses Meridian. I think the city of Simpsonville, Seneca. Yeah, they basically bought out Ace. So, yeah, they
Simpsonville
bought out
in-house.
Ace, and they're located in Greer. So that was a question mark for us as well, but they do have some local jurisdictions.
Oh, I'm really happy with Greater Greenville, to be honest with you. I think it's been the best that we've had, so.
Do y'all have any other questions on the committee? People from council members, any other questions, comments?
I think it's sad we have to pay more for recycling. We're trying to, everybody talks about being green, and then we get penalized for trying to do that. And it's like, what's the incentive? We're raising the fee on everybody, and everyone's not even participating in it. I recycle, and I will continue to, but still, it seems like, you would not be penalized for trying to be green, but
Well, just to
way
be
it is.
clear, we're not proposing a fee increase. So
That's
we
how I
wouldn't be
do.
raising a fee. We would be paying for it through tax dollars as we have. The fee of $6 per residence would stay the same as it is today unless council decided to change that. However, that would not be part of the current proposal, would be to adjust that $6 a month fee.
So we just get it from a different part of the budget?
We would just have to determine if we could cover it through tax revenues and other revenue sources, that's correct. So we would eat the additional, we paid for all of these services without a fee for many years. So we would just continue to do so and subsidize the way we've subsidized throughout, the last 25, 30 years.
Okay.
Feels like going backwards, honestly, with all the effort we had to put forward, the trash fee, and then
Mm-hmm.
doing
Changing
this all over again. Man, that
Mhm.
makes me sick, having to think about an extra $10 a person for recycling. I don't know what the right solution is, but
Well, I think that's why they stopped doing glass. It was too expensive,
Same
right?
thing,
And
yeah.
so, like, to me, that was a big part of recycling. It was too expensive.
Well, we could explore, like you're doing, negotiating, also seeing about the extra centers, the extra recycling centers.
I know we talked, oh, sorry.
And then maybe we could actually poll our residents to see what they want.
Well, I mean, if the city as a policy does not want to continue a program, citizens can purchase the program independent. So the program could be purchased by those that want to pay for it. Like, if you live outside the city limits, if you want recycling for your neighborhood, you pay for it. Now, that is going to always be an option, because it's a free market and they can pay Evergreen to come pick it up. Now, if Evergreen is to come and pick up, say, one neighborhood, the rate that they're going to give that neighborhood is not going to be the rate they give us.
Right.
So, but they have neighborhoods that they provide recycling service to in the county, that neighborhood just pays them directly and as a recycling customer. I don't think that we would see a lot of recyclers in the city if we were to go with that approach. I think that approach, we would end up,
I
obviously.
think it was just always nice because it was an add-on. They were already picking it up, it was convenient, but thinking about our role as a city, it was a nice to have, but is it a necessary function of city government, recycling? I don't know. I don't want to lose my recycling, but also I don't want to be having the same conversation next year about how this is eaten into our general fund budget. So I do think one of our options is to consider, do we not have this as a service or not? Just putting that out there as well.
Correct. When we
I mean,
get
I
into
don't like
budget
it.
time, we'll have exactly those numbers. So,
Okay.
in the next couple of months, we'll be talking about the budget and whether or not this is something that we can afford based on the budget, and that could just be it's a policy decision and a budget decision.
I mean, I did almost 10,000 a month, but I might be wrong on that.
No, if we get the number down to
$10,
$10 over
$9.40.
1,801 customers, it basically raises that per customer $5.80.
Oh, I meant like our cost. If we had 940 pickups, $10 a month, that's 9,000 a month. Let's just raise it up to 10 so I can do the math easy. It's $120 a year for recycling. That's a good chunk.
Yep, so that same number, if you get to it by $5.80 over 1,801 customers, so that's about, I think that's about
Okay.
right, yeah.
Doing the
So
good math.
averages out to be an increase from $12.50 to around $18 total to the city.
Which is like
In collection.
two salaries of a fire or police. All right.
It just sounds like we got a lot more work to look at right now. When is it that they're going to discontinue recycling here?
Through the end of the fiscal year, so it'll be
Okay, so we
June
got through
31st,
June.
yes.
Okay.
So what we got on our tag is not correct. What we got on
Correct, it's
our
incorrect.
blue thing
That is correct.
last week is not correct.
Correct.
Okay, they said May,
Yeah,
March
that was a
27th.
mistake. They did not, I think they got some wires crossed internally. They should not have put those out in the city of Travelers Rest.
Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn?
I just
public-
want to make
yeah.
one more thing, just with the sewer. Is Metro going to send any information out so people know that the sewer has been changed? Is there going to be like a mailing, or how are residents going to know to contact Metro?
So we can certainly shoot out We have several ways we can communicate that. We had sent out a letter that basically provided all that information initially.
Right,
that
it's been a
provided all the
while.
contact. We can put that on our website and Facebook and other media, social media channels and get that out there.
I don't think a date was on the initial documents as to what time it was going to be moved over. So that would be kind of nice to, I think, for residents. That's it. I move to dismiss.
A second.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Mayor?
Thank you for that. Next, we'll move into our Public Safety Committee Chair Byers.
Okay, calling to order the Public Safety Committee. Present are myself, Grant Bumgarner, Shanice Chris, Wayne McCall, and Brantley Best. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from February 6th?
Motion to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, Chief Ford? Your time has finally come.
Feel special today.
Anything you want to highlight on the reports you've submitted?
Actually, I don't have anything to highlight, just take any questions anybody has.
Great. Does anyone on the committee have questions for Chief?
What was going on Friday afternoon? Tell me about Friday afternoon, 5:30, 6 o'clock. I seen more police in Travis than I've seen in.
Okay, I know why. Yeah, the traffic grant that we have, with the state paying the overtime for the officers to enforce traffic, we just had 3 or 4 that day that came in at the same time, and we're working that same day, so.
It's all focusing on downtown.
Focus on traffic all over the city, 25 and 276, and all that's paid, the city doesn't pay a penny of that, it's all from the grant.
Did you get pulled over, Wayne?
No, I was right in the middle of the rain. I was like, the dude had his police car right in the middle of the road and was out. I mean, they were working, boy.
Yeah, we had quite a few working there.
Yeah.
They were, that's probably, the most
I want to hear
officers we
about,
have.
have I got, I done hit up Dan about it. I want to hear if there was conflicting,
I had to think back there, but yeah, that's what it was.
No, that was good. I thought that was good, to see everybody working like that.
Yes, sir.
Is there any reasoning that you can think of for the motor vehicle crashes being way up this year versus last year?
I looked at that, Council Byers, I don't know. We looked into it, and it's a big difference this year, and I don't really know yet. I'm still trying to find out what may have been going on. We look at, I think last year there was some major storms that came through, so you would think that might have been more last year than this year, but yeah, other than just a lot more traffic maybe coming through the city, I don't know a reason why right now. Can't put my finger on it.
And what about the Walmart service calls?
Same thing on that. All of a sudden, they just went up all of a sudden. So I'm going to pay attention, obviously, next month to see if we have a trend going in that direction. But nothing's really changed with Walmart and what they're doing and what we're doing as far as towing cars of people that we arrest and things. So nothing's changed. It's just went up. So I'll pay attention to that trend and see if I can get a good answer for you. So.
Thank you. Does anyone on council have questions for Chief about the report?
Doing a good job.
And the DUIs are
Thank
8
you.
as well. I mean, that's high compared to last year, all year 27. Do you think it's just more police presence that are out and about?
We are focused more on traffic safety and that's why we're catching more DUIs. Yes, ma'am. We believe they've always been there. We just haven't had the personnel in order to focus on it. With that traffic grant, they're able to focus on that too, so.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the municipal court report. Anything you want to highlight? Okay. Any questions from committee about the report? Anyone from council? Okay. Next. Anything you would like to bring to our attention about the report?
No, everything's pretty much, we did change up the report a little bit to try to just give you the stuff that, y'all have requested and seen before and not try to dazzle you with a bunch of stuff that don't really mean a hill of beans until you're trying to do a statistician report or something like that. So we did change that up a little bit. And to echo on what you were just talking to Chief Ford about, I mean, it's just a lot more people because we run those same rec calls with them. And it's just a lot more people on the road, in my opinion.
Does anyone on committee have questions for Chief?
Well, is what am am I trying to say, like NRE student, what, a vocational student?
He's from Bonds.
That's Alex,
Very-
right?
It is,
Yeah.
yes.
I saw him at an accident the other day.
He, ever since that kid, he's been a little boy, he's wanted to do what he's doing right now.
He's doing great.
Oh, I'm sure he is. His father is the assistant director at NRE, if, you know, and if anybody want to know, he's a great kid.
Anyone on council have questions about the fire report? Okay. That was easy. Okay. And anything you want to say about the building permit report?
No additional information.
Okay, any questions from committee? Any questions from council? Wonderful. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
In a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All right, Planning and Development Committee, Chair Vest.
All right, call to order the Planning and Development Committee meeting for March. Committee members present, myself, Brantley Vest, Grant Baumgardner, Kelly Byers, Dr. Shanice Chris, and Wayne McCall. And I would entertain a motion to approve our 6 February minutes.
Motion.
Second.
All right. I just want to say on the record, I appreciate how slow things have been for planning and development.
Same.
It's been refreshing.
nice, yeah.
So, just wanted to ask you, do you want to highlight anything on the report? I don't notice anything new on the report, but, anything to highlight before we open it up for questions?
No, sir, nothing new to highlight, but I will say that, that it is quite busy behind the scenes.
Uh-oh. Shouldn't have said anything. All right.
But I do appreciate the comment, though, because it certainly has been quiet on this end, so.
Yeah, well, we're rejuvenated, ready to battle on, so we'll look forward to it. Does anybody on the committee have questions around the development report? Anyone on council?
Have you gotten a lot of questions about the development up here on the end? What is this, Old Buncombe? That's outside of city limits?
I
any
have received a
issues?
couple of comments, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I was just curious if, I've gotten like 3 of them at this point. Is it in the city limits? What's coming? Do you have any idea of what all that entails, that development?
That development is a townhome development. I believe it's 140-ish units, if I'm not mistaken, 144 sticking in my head. Don't
Okay.
hold me to that. But yeah, it will be townhome development. It will be right on the Swamp Rabbit, just south of the city limits.
Okay.
Formerly the
Mentor,
best
so-
stretch of the trail, and now arguably one of the worst.
That very well could be the case, yes.
What's the price point on those?
I don't know offhand.
I saw a sign. I think they're like upper 200s, mid,
They're
upper.
selling them?
All right, if no other questions, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
All right, Ways and Means Committee, Chair Baumgardner.
Call the Ways and Means Committee together, myself, Kelly Byers, Shanice Chris, Rick Floyd, and Brantley Vest. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our February 6th meeting.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Got a second? Okay. Wayne, by the way, the figure that you were looking for is right here in the Ways and Means minutes.
Okay.
That you were asking about. Does anybody on council, on a committee have any questions, comments? Anybody from council? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
There you go. Thank y'all.
Thank you for that. Personnel Committee, Chair Floyd.
Call the Personnel Committee to order, sorry. Members present, myself, Rick Floyd, Grant Baumgardner, Kelly Byers, Shanice Chris, and Brantley Vest. Motion to approve the Personnel Committee for February.
So moved.
Second.
All right, does anyone have any questions on the committee? Anyone on council? Motion to adjourn.
All right, looks like we did all our work at the beginning of this meeting.
Yes, we
In the
did.
Public Works. So we have no old business. For new business, it's kind of exciting. We'll let Eric take it away, but let me set us up a little bit as a reminder for our skate park conversation for council. And I can't remember if you guys are all here in our audience. We had some local advocates come, some young gentlemen, and speak on wanting to have a skate park in Travelers Rest, and then his mother spoke, which was really great, talking about the community of skateboarders. We were able to work on having skateboarder access over at Trailblazer Park with restrictions, thanks to Philip, for some of the special use and to make sure that they're taking good care of our property. But then we also started kind of challenging Eric a little bit about what if we did have a skate park and what could that look like. Lisa and I went and toured Spartanburg. They have a really cool setup down there, and so Eric has been thinking about what could we do if that was something, if we're kind of moving into the park business and what that would look like. And so, Eric, I'll let you introduce the RFP process and how this might kind of help give us options.
Thank you, Mayor. So we did do a little research into the topic overall, and appreciate the feedback from Lisa and Mayor that they brought back from Spartanburg. We met with the person who was involved in that project on the design and construction side, and had a lot of lessons learned. Also, local engineer and a skate park designer. We're blessed to have somebody right here in Greenville who knew that is an expert in this area. And so we had a meeting with them. They were able to kind of help us with just, I guess, an informal feasibility, if you will. And we looked at some properties, and the property along the trail really stood out as a great passive recreational type property, as well as potential for a skate park. And not just a skate park, we felt like there was enough linear green space in there to have some other purposes as well. A lot of potential for additional, I guess you would say, recreational uses along that area. So with that in mind, we felt like it may be a good time to put out a request for proposals to see what type of ideas people come back with. And if it's something that the city would like to move forward with, I think that would be probably a good first step. Some of the bullet points that you have in the memo here, some of the I guess the topics or items that we would consider including in any sort of request for proposals. That it would be a design build proposal. That opportunities, they could explore opportunities for public-private partnerships. We could look at the opportunity of having the winning bidder relocate the History Museum perhaps to a more suitable location. Obviously, I think any proposal, we would not be able to keep that building in that location. That's roughly, just FYI, there was some quotes that were gained by the Historic Society on moving that building up to Main Street, and at the time it was about $100,000 to move that building. Was some of the was the quote that I think that they received.
Might have been two.
I thought it was a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think it's 200,000.
Well, you're thinking of the Harper quote. There was a Harper quote that
Six.
was 280,000. There was a more recent quote from a contractor in North Carolina that
Oh, okay.
that the
Maybe we're
historic.
thinking about moving it over here.
Yeah, that's when
okay.
we were looking at moving it to the state, to the Trailblazer Park site, and that was a very astronomical quote.
Okay, gotcha.
But there was a more reasonable quote that the Historic Society did receive.
Okay.
We would ask that any design include substantial green space and any other amenities for families and spectators. That additional public parking be provided on the site. That there be, the level of skate park that we would be adding would be a level that would drive recreational tourism, as well as provide for local residents. Inclusion of additional pedestrian trails and walkways throughout the site, public restrooms, and assistance with funding sources, including other grants that are available through state parks. They have a grant that's available as well. Those are just an initial brainstorming list. We wanted to kind of get this in front of council to kind of get council's feedback, if there's any other items that we might want to consider in our request, and if it's okay to proceed, with this request. If we are in agreement that we can move forward, we could put this out relatively quickly and probably put a 8-month or 8-week turnaround time on that and have, some proposals to present back to council in about 8 to 10 weeks.
Just as kind of a reminder for Lisa and Sherry, I don't know if we've had an RFP process since you guys have been on council, but this is like us just saying, hey, we have something that we're looking at and we're interested. What would the public developers and whoever might be interested, what kind of plan would they put? So it's not like we're committing to anything. This would just be more like us dreaming out loud from a public transparency standpoint. And it would have some type of dollars associated with it because we'd have to think about sponsorships and all that fun stuff. So they would kind of help us in that process, or grants, like you're mentioning as well, which there are a lot of skate park grants specifically out there that we just probably don't know about because we're not in that business. But anyways, just some context. This is more of like a, hey, what do you guys think? And then they can come back to us with ideas.
I have a question. I think it's really interesting. I was wondering about Gateway Park because I know it used to be the bike thing there, might still be there. Is this something that could be built there instead? I was just wondering about the location.
Good question.
Sure. So currently, we don't control Gateway. However, at some point in the future, we may. We focused on those properties that we currently do own and control.
Makes sense.
And actually, this one really jumped out as a great opportunity just because of the constrained nature of the property. It's very linear and long, and that lays itself out a certain portion of it for some really neat design concepts and some ideas. Otherwise, unusable property for other types of development.
I
Thank
like
you.
it where it is. It's kind of a gateway into Travelers Rest, and it's easier, it's ours, and it's easier controlled, I think, here versus trying to get into Gateway right now, so.
I think the concept of having this type of facility along the trail is also attractive to other people as well as, to the city of having it a trail frontage park as well. Was one of the, some of the feedback that we got from,
Was public-private enterprise considered?
it
Like in
depends on who.
Spartanburg is the hotspot, whatever trail, park. Clemson, they're looking at public-private stuff.
We think that there is an opportunity for a public-private partnership. We would like to hear their proposals on what would benefit them and what would benefit the city. But I do think that it is situated as such that we could anticipate some very creative proposals on a mutually beneficial public-private partnership, yes.
Hotspot, so we could have a Sphinx skate park.
There you go.
Hey.
There you go.
Why not?
There could be sponsorship opportunities, there could be beneficial opportunities with private development. It all depends on that particular individual, how he sees, gaining any sort of benefit from that public-private partnership, yes.
I just really appreciate that it's an old school sport that's outside and not electronic wise, because we're getting known, for being walking, biking, and I think that would be a huge add-in that we would have.
It's such a community and skateboarders. My only thing, I really like the location along the trail. Would it be, there would be like trees and foliage? My only concern is seeing it from 25.
I think that what we would want to make sure that is done is just designed as a landscaping is a huge emphasis of the winning bidder, that they have to build in significant amounts of green space. So it's not just a concrete concept where everything is removed and there's no green space. I think they would have to do a very good job with their proposal to make sure that that would be one of the things that I think we should include in any winning proposal, that we're looking for something that is green and includes a lot of landscaping and trees as well.
And you're dealing with kids with 25 right there, with cars going by, seeing kids. That just, as a parent, concerns me.
Would there also be a more expensive insurance because it's for skateboarding, like a higher risk activity?
It's a great question. We don't pay any extra for skateboarding unless it's designed improperly. We got some great feedback from Spartanburg and from the individual we met with. And as long as we design it properly so that we don't, I guess one of the examples that Spartanburg kind of learned after the fact was that they designed too much vertical on one of the ramps, and that could not be insured at a reasonable rate. So if we design it to a certain specification, we can keep our insurance rates as is without any additional increase in insurance.
And I talked with the municipal association as well, so whatever design, we would run it past them, and they're experienced in skate parks now, so they were like, yeah. The Spartanburg example that Lisa and I looked at, what was it, like 2 feet, had caused them to jump into a whole nother insurance bracket, so a half pike or something, I don't know the words for it, but I think those are the lessons that we would factor in from an insurance standpoint, so it doesn't affect us.
I like the idea, and also knowing Spartanburg, being in Spartanburg myself, one thing I don't like about that park is that it looks like a concrete jungle. And I would
by itself.
love to see let's put something else, make it look different, even if that's gotta be that way. It doesn't have to look that way all the time. But I also like the idea of putting it out here, 'cause having kids there and stuff also, we need to be able to patrol it well. That's gonna be a whole lot better than trying to get down into Gateway.
Yeah, having
Agree.
eyes on this area so that it's not tucked away somewhere where kids can go and just be hidden, I think is something that is a factor as well. So public
That was
safety.
also, yeah, some of the feedback at Spartanburg, they're like, kids come out at night. I mean, you can't, they had fences up. It was a little bit of an eyesore from that standpoint, but I think having the extra staff here would be a nice, even if they are out there skateboarding at night, to have people out here. All right, well, does anybody have anything just off the top of their head they would want to add or take away from Eric's proposal?
I could add public safety component to the list since
Okay,
that's
that's great.
something that
And
has been
maybe
brought
some
up.
emphasis on landscaping. I'm sure you already have that in there, but
Like,
as a gateway.
I guess you don't have a design already, but I'm thinking of some kind of buffer between the park and 25.
Sound, safety, all the
And
things.
it will have a fence around it. It should. I think that's what, we need a fence around it.
I don't know.
Didn't they, at Spartanburg, they had to have a
Yeah,
fence?
but I
Uh-huh.
don't know if I like the fence. It's kind of like boxing it in.
For safety reasons.
Or maybe like around the pike. Yeah, could be. Okay. Do you need an official vote or anything for you for,
We could do one vote, just
Okay.
just to kind of have everybody on the same page, just to kind of move this idea forward. That wouldn't hurt.
all right, do I hear a motion to send forward the city skate park request for proposal for Eric to
Make a motion.
administer? Okay, Rick, we got a,
Second.
okay, Lisa, all in favor? Okay, thank you for that. All right, let's see. Administrative update. Eric, you got anything else for us?
No, ma'am, I think
All right, we
we've
good
covered
for
it
the
all.
night?
We got Furman game to watch tonight, guys.
All
Furman's in the
right.
finals.
Okay, Furman's in the finals.
7
Anybody-
o'clock, ESPN.
Anybody have anything else for the good of council? Motion to adjourn? All right, second?
Second.
Okay.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Great.
Who's Furman playing? Do you know?
Yeah.